This is a view that I've got looking down on Vence, and that's the old town there. And I'm going to do a panoramic small study of this on location here in preparation for a much larger painting of the same view. So I've got this underway, as you can see. I've put in a few lights. I mean, it's all about the way the light catches it in this sort of early morning view. So I've got to get the cool colours in and the warm lights to set up that colour relationship, which will make it work. I'm working on, as usual, a mid-toned warm canvas so I can just get those highlights coming straight out. Now I put the sky in. It's quite a warm sky, so I use phthalo blue a little bit with some warmer whites in there, and then a little bit of contrast for the sea. That's the Mediterranean Sea out there, and eventually in there you can just see I've put Cap d'Antibes. It's hard to see from this view on the video. There's the view of the old town. That's really the focus of the picture, although not a strong focus. I like it to be more of a general view as it's a panoramic. Now just keep filling in. Quite a lot of work blending all of those colours, and mainly I want to find the rhythm of the way those lights float across the painting and integrate with the greens and oranges of roofs and the orange in the landscape. It's really not a picture about detail, but catching the effect of the light, the atmosphere and the rhythm of those colours and tones dancing together. Now, back in the studio, the challenge is to turn that location painting, sort of sketch painting, into a full-size studio painting. And as you can see here now, I've sketched it out, put the main lines in so that I can see the proportions of the composition. So I start actually by putting down fairly accurately the colours and the shapes and tones without really doing a lot of correcting, but just trying to put it straight down just as I see it, and work in an area of the canvas where I can relate all of those colours. I can see the sky tones against the sea, against the background hills, the foreground trees, and then the town and lighting on the different houses, etc. in the town. I want, before I even start to go anywhere else on the canvas, I just want to see that relationship at least starting to work. As soon as I've got a reasonably good idea of how that's working, I just start working out. So this next step is just to fill out the canvas, and so I move out in all directions, and as I'm going along I'm balancing, but I don't do too much correcting with the balancing because I want to see the whole thing together really before I start to do too much there. So now I've got the canvas covered and I start to blend down the colours a little bit, softening, losing detail here and there, and working more with the atmosphere rather than the detail. And once I've sort of pushed all the colours back, then there starts this process of pulling colours out, blending them back, pulling them out, blending them back. And here you can see I've pulled out some of the stronger greens, the oranger greens, some of the reds in the trees, and pushed even deeper into the blues, green blues, grey blues, to push some of the trees back and deeper to create more depth and atmosphere in the lighting. I'll just continue that process here. I've just gone a little bit further with everything, pushing, and I just keep going until I've got that atmosphere. I'm looking for that early morning atmosphere. And in fact, after I'd done that sketch up on the hill looking down, when I was on location, I decided that the earlier light was more beautiful. So I went back over the following days while I was starting this bigger studio version and decided to push the lighting more and more towards the earlier atmosphere, so deeper into the violets and blue greys in the trees and warmer into the light catching the buildings. And I just kept pushing and pushing that until I finally got to where I wanted to be. And that really is here. This is the final painting. And this process is quite typical for me, to have some of the work in the studio and some on location. And it's also very interesting that the painting changed from the original location painting to a more atmospheric, earlier light. And it just shows it's very important to keep going back to the original inspiration of and to make sure that you stay focused. It's very, very easy to lose that focus during the painting and be distracted by all the challenges. And in fact, my original inspiration was that atmospheric early morning light, which I lost to some degree on the location painting as it got lighter and lighter throughout the time I was actually painting it, because I was there for about an hour and a half or so. So I was able to go back to that on the studio painting, and that's only possible because I kept going back to the original thought of what is this painting all about? What am I trying to say? And going back to the location. And every time I went back to the location, I went earlier in the morning until I really knew what I was trying to do. And it's not about detail. It's not about capturing every building or every window exactly the way it is, although that is more or less right. But it's not about that. It's about, and in fact, sometimes you need to sacrifice that and reduce the impact of that to give more power to the atmosphere.